Welcome to the Daily Dispatch. First up, operations have commenced in the gold and copper-rich areas of Reko Diq in Balochistan, Pakistan. We'll tell you the details and what it will bring to the country. Secondly, we'll highlight the OXFAM's latest report, Survival of the Richest, which has light on the richest 1%, which has accumulated around two-thirds of the global wealth. And last on the dispatch, we'll tell you about the swelling competition of US and China in the South China Sea. We're here to give you the news and to help you infer the world around you. I'm Tayyaba Nisar, and here is your Daily Dispatch. Barrick Gold Corporation, a Canada-based firm, has commenced operations in the Reko Diq project in Balochistan, Pakistan. At a ceremony held in the Chief Minister's Secretariat on Sunday, the company's CEO, Mark Bristow, announced the establishment of a project office in the provincial capital, Quetta. Now, the ceremony was attended by both the government and opposition members in the provincial government. According to Bristow, the company has hired the best experts, including the local personnel, that will be working on the project. On the occasion, the Chief Minister said that the deal was achieved after overcoming the legislative obstacles, addressing political leadership concerns, and any other hurdles to signing the agreement. Reko Diq is one of the largest underdeveloped copper-gold projects in the world. The ownership breakdown of the mines lies with the state authorities and Barrick Gold. However, Barrick Gold will own 50% of the mine ownership, whereas 25% will be owned by a federal state-owned enterprise and 15% by the province of Balochistan, while the remaining 10% also by the province on a free carried basis, making the state-owned share at 50%. Now, as per the company, the operational cost will be fully funded by the Barrick Gold, whereas the provincial government is expected to reap the dividends, royalties, and other benefits of its 25% shareholding. The provincial government will receive up to $50 million in the royalties until production starts in 2028. The company will resume its first production in 2028, and for the first 5 years, with 100% production capacity, it aims to produce 430 million pounds worth of copper and 280,000 ounces worth of gold from the site. In terms of employment, the company expects to employ nearly 7,500 at peak during the construction phase. In the long term, the Reko Diq facility will employ 4,000 jobs. The company aims to prioritize the employment of local people from Balochistan province, as well as personnel from across Pakistan. Now, as per the Bureau of Statistics, the unemployment rate in Balochistan stood at 4.3% in 2020 and 21. This project is expected to help offer a new source of revenue for the resource-strapped province. Initiation of a successful operation by Barrick Gold, which once had bottlenecks, will boost the investor confidence and pave a way for the multinational corporations to bring the much-needed direct foreign investments in Pakistan, the FDIs, which often remain in search of much-needed fiscal space for the public and developmental spending, as well as timely debt servicing. Let's take you to an interesting report on inequality. OXFAM's latest report, Survival of the Richest, sheds light on the growing inequality between haves and have-nots. It estimates that the richest 1% have accumulated around two-thirds of the global wealth, $26 trillion since 2020, with $2.7 billion being added up to the fortunes of the richest 1% each day. Now, this lopsided and unequal wealth distribution have been accompanied by weak tax revenue. Wealth taxes are contributing only 4% to every dollar of tax, while half of the world's richest people hold their money in countries where they enjoy significant exemptions from different taxes. OXFAM's report comes as the world is undergoing a series of crises: weak post-COVID recovery, the slow economic growth, climate change-induced disasters, increasing debt for developing countries, and rising inflation due to disruption in the supply chains. According to the World Bank, poverty has increased for the first time in over 20 years, while public debt is at a 50-year high, especially developing countries. The concentration of so much wealth in such few hands points to a dysfunctional economic model, in which the basic necessities of the underprivileged in the global south and the global north are not met, despite immense wealth creation and significant technological advances. A more equitable distribution mechanism would produce more social and economic dividends for the have-nots. For example, the OXFAM report suggests a 5% increase in tax on the world's richest people, which would yield $1.7 trillion per year, which will be enough to lift 2 billion people out of poverty and considerably reduce the global poverty. Next, with the rise of the US-China contest on different fronts, such as trade and economy, technology and chips, and Taiwan, the South China Sea is also under hot water as the United States and China continue to increase their naval exercises. The Shandong Aircraft Carrier Group of the Chinese People's Liberation Army Navy conducted a regional drill, with the group practicing attack and defense, and the J-15 fighter jets carrying out the interception drills. This came amid the exercises being carried out by the United States Nimitz Carrier Strike Group. The conflict in the South China Sea, which annually hosts $3.4 trillion worth of trade, has been as old as the 1970s, when the countries began to claim the islands in the oil, gas, and resource-rich sea. China has claimed the strategic region in its entirety, contested by some Southeast Asian nations such as Taiwan, Vietnam, Malaysia, and the Philippines. The United States sides with the Southeast Asian nations, calling China's claims unlawful, contesting the claim of Chinese sovereignty in the region, especially after the Chinese military buildup on the Spratly and Paracel Islands, among the other Chinese natural and artificial islands. The United States frequently sends warships in the region under the Freedom of Navigation Operations, or FONOPs, in a bid to ramp up its military and naval presence in the recent years. Now, the US conducts the FONOPs under the United Nations Convention on the Law of Seas to challenge what they say is an illegal maritime claim, which is inconsistent with international laws. Now, the former President Barack Obama initiated conducting the FONOPs in the region in 2015, which increased under the former President Donald Trump. The Chinese officials consider this a blatant violation of their sovereignty and military provocation, warning that the FONOPs have gone beyond the scope of freedom of navigation. Tensions with Vietnam and Philippines, which were earlier high on the exclusive economic zone, have recently cooled off. However, the US-China competition in the region continues to escalate. Against the backdrop of the other theaters of the US-China confrontation, such as the Taiwan conflict and the trade wars, many analysts are arguing whether this competition should be termed the new Cold War or not. Now, we'll give you more from the Asian maritime front. As the maritime and political disputes remain unsettled, geopolitical competition continues apace and mutual distrust increases, there is a growing arms race in East Asia. China has undertaken modernization, including its nuclear weapons and naval forces. North Korea carried out a record number of missile tests this year, besides claiming to test an intercontinental ballistic missile and announcing a plan to increase its nuclear arsenals. In a significant departure from the post-World War II pacifism, Japan has also announced to increase its defense budget to 2% of the GDP, along with both showing a desire to acquire and build long-range missiles. According to some estimates, Taiwan has made more than $14 billion worth of military purchases from the United States since 2019. These developments signal increasing geopolitical competition in the region that is home to many border and maritime disputes and has 3 nuclear powers: China, Russia, and North Korea, making it one of the most nuclear flashpoints in the world. This geopolitical competition gets more complicated with the involvement of US and its Asia pivot policy. Moreover, the arms race in East Asia is also linked to a larger global scenario, especially in South Asia, which has 2 nuclear powers, Pakistan and India, whose security dilemma has driven them to indulge again and again in the arms race to address their security challenges. Lastly, in a tragic news, Nepal mourns as the search and rescue for the plane crash victims continue, with no hopes of finding survivors. Rescuers have recovered bodies of 68 out of 72 people who were on board the fatal flight that crashed in Pokhara, Nepal. It is the deadliest plane crash in 30 years in the country. Nepal is prone to aviation accidents due to its rough terrain and has witnessed 17 plane crashes since 2000, with 350 recorded deaths in aviation incidents. Last year in May 2022, Nepal witnessed a plane crash that killed 22 people. Even though the difficulty in navigating the terrain is frequently blamed, poor aviation maintenance and regulation and the lack of investment in the sector are also seen as major issues. In 2013, the European Union banned airlines from Nepal from flying into the 27-member bloc due to the weak safety standards. even though International Civil Aviation Authority, an organization, recorded improvements in 2017. The European Union continues to demand administrative reforms. That's all, folks. We'd be happy to receive your feedback and suggestions. We'll be back tomorrow with more bite-sized news that keeps you up to date with what's happening in the country, the region, and the globe. I'm Tayyaba Nisar Khan, and this was your Daily Dispatch.